The Philadelphia 76ers are fresh off an absolutely massive victory in the play-in tournament, taking down the Miami Heat 105-104 on the back of an impressive performance from Nico Batum, of all people. Now, there's been some up and down relationships, some up and down feelings on Nico Batum. He's been a guy that I think has particularly shined when Joel Embiid was in the lineup and hasn't looked quite as good without him, but they simply do not win tonight's game without him, and he deserves his flowers for that. We have the Sixers official Twitter showing him his flowers there, and I do want to dive into the takeaways from this game as a whole and why it was particularly impressive. So to dive into Batum himself, for starters, he finished this matchup as the team's second leading scorer with 20 points off the bench, also had 5 rebounds, shot 6 of 10 from beyond the three-point arc, and perhaps most notably is he was in the closing lineup over to Tobias Harris for the first time that we have seen that Toby was not in the closing lineup for the Sixers team, and I think Nick Nurse deserves a bit of a hat tip and some massive credit for that. So to dive into the game as a whole in the box score, once again, the Sixers producing a 105-104 victory. Joel Embiid leading the charge with 23 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists. We also got 9 points and 10 rebounds from Tobias Harris. We got 19 points, 6 assists, just 6 of 16 shooting for Tyrese Maxey. Kelly Oubre adding 11 points, 8 rebounds, him shooting 3 of 9 from the field. And then off the bench as well, some notable performances. Buddy Hield stepping up for 7 points, and they felt far more massive than that. We had Paul Reed give some solid minutes, and Cam Payne knocking down a big 3 for this team. He was a change of pace, a spark off the bench in the second half, and he delivered on this. And I don't want to undersell how impressive this victory is, that yes, it was not perfect, but the first half looked about as poor as could possibly be. And to dive into some specifics of it, in the first half, they had 12 turnovers as a team, shot just 32.6% from the field, 16.7% from beyond the three-point arc. They got 0 points in 18 minutes of play from Oubre. They had no energy, and nearly all their mistakes were self-inflicted. It looked like they were not ready. It looked like they were scared of the moment. And overall, the Heat zone just put them in a pretzel offensively. It felt like the Sixers had no clue how to handle things, which is a little inexcusable on my mind, as zone defense should have been at the top of the preparation list. We know this is what the Miami Heat do. They do it as effectively as everyone. And to their credit, they do throw different looks. It's not like it's the same zone defense, possession in and possession out. What particularly worked well for them today was essentially a box and one that they had on Joel Embiid. So the other 4 guys rotating, and even the specific matchup on Joel rotating, but there was constantly a man on the back. They were kind of baiting the entry pass to Joel and picking it off, and did a very nice job of executing on that. But I was very frustrated with the Sixers looking so frazzled by it, and it led to the Heat jumping out to a massive lead. I believe it got up to 14 at one point in that game. But the bottom line is, when they came out in the second half, they were a completely different team. And it was Nico Batum who took the top off, who was able to change this game, and he did it on both sides of the floor. Not only did he have 20 points, which was the most that he has produced in a Sixers uniform all year, but he also was so key on the defensive end. He guarded Jimmy Butler, and he had such a crucial block on Tyler Hero right down the stretch that more or less secured the game. He was hyped up, he was fired up, he was screaming, and we got a little love from Tyrese Maxey showing the game after. But he pointed out Batum has guarded the smallest guys like Trae Young to the tallest guys in the NBA like Wemby. His defensive versatility is second to none. Tonight he guarded Hero, Butler, Bam. What he's done for the team this season has been remarkable. That's some high praise, and it's absolutely deserving for Nico Batum. He's the exact type of glue guy that just makes a difference on championship contenders. Nico Batum is exactly what we wanted PJ Tucker to be. He brings the toughness, he brings the versatility, he's capable of catching fire from 3, and he's just an overall the smartest basketball player on the floor on an every night basis. That he may not always shine in the stat sheets. There may be the games where he has, 3 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, but the way that he does impact winning is so crucial to the team. Defensively, he's everywhere. He's one step ahead of what the opponents want to do, and it is a huge asset for the Sixers team. And once again, I do want to circle back to Tobias Harris not being in the closing lineup. As far as the big picture moments as a whole, I have a couple takeaways that I did want to jump on here. Number 1, the Sixers played their worst half of the season and picked themselves off the mat to get the victory. Number 2, Joel Embiid dominated down the stretch. I'm going to touch on that more in a second. Number 3, Nick Nurse benched Tobias Harris in the closing lineup. And lastly, the supporting cast stepped up when it needed. That it was not just Nico Batum. Buddy Hield had a terrific spark for this team. And by the way, was far better defensively than I've really ever seen him for this team. Kelly Oubre had a brutal first half, stepped up, had a crucial and one that more or less decided the game, which was on a beautiful duck in and a beautiful pass from Joel Embiid. And he brought it defensively in a way that has been the norm for him all season, but was unexpected going into the year. That nobody really knew what that Kelly Oubre was capable of this level of defense, and he brought it against the Miami Heat. He got called for kind of a nonsense reach-in that was disappointing. The refereeing today, they were letting the boys play, and Kelly Oubre was making the most of that as a whole. Now, obviously, the head of the snake for this Sixers team, it is Joel Embiid. And I'm not going to say it was a perfect Joel Embiid game. In fact, in the first half, it was pretty rough. Now, to start with the injury side of things, I don't think that he's injured. I'm seeing a lot of that speculation. From my eyes, what I see is it's a guy that's completely out of shape because he has not played enough basketball in the past few months recovering from this knee injury. And it's also a guy that doesn't quite trust that knee yet. There were a couple of bunnies that he had, a couple lay-in opportunities that if it's a normal Joel Embiid, he's dunking that basketball. And he kind of went for a little short kind of finger roll opportunity and missed several of them, specifically in the first half. But what stood out to me the most is when the game was on the line, when it mattered down the stretch, it was Joel Embiid answering the call. And to dive into specifically what he was able to do, the production that he did have, we have from Dave Early here saying Joel Embiid scored or assisted on 17 of the Sixers' 36 fourth quarter points. And by the way, that comes with him not being in for all sets of action. He hit a big-time three-pointer that put them up. He also had a crucial and one, and on that play, he battled for the offensive board among 3 or 4 Heat players in the mix, tipped it up to himself, got it, brought it down, got slapped on the wrist, hit an and one, and that really kind of changed the tides of the game. And what sealed it off completely was this beautiful pass on a duck into Kelly Oubre, who finished and the foul, gave him the Kelly Oubre flex. And why that's such a key moment for me is when you think back to past versions of Joel Embiid, a lot of times he goes down with the ship by himself, that he is forcing himself into that shot even when it is not the right basketball play. And this was an example of him trusting his teammates, executing the play, executing the pass, and ultimately leading to the overall victory. So I thought Joel Embiid was the most valuable player on the floor, that he looked to be every bit of the superstar that he's capable of being when it mattered most. And that's especially impressive to turn things around after really having a disappointing first half. Now, he definitely needs to play better moving forward. There's no doubt about it that they're not going to be able to afford to have these type of first halves against the New York Knicks, as this is now the matchup. But this still was a tangible stride in his development and in his growth. And I know I've made this point before, but everyone is labeled a loser until they're not. That when you think about every player that has won a championship, every player that has gone deep in the playoffs, they only get that reputation once they do it. That when you think about a guy like Giannis, that he was labeled a guy that can't be a number one on a championship team until he was. Nikola Jokic, that many people pointed out that he has not had any postseason success, that this style of play does not translate in the postseason until it does, and he wins a championship. And that happens for different ages for all players. Hakeem Olajuwon, who we've seen Joel Embiid compared to plenty, did not win his first championship until he was 32 years old. It happens at a different rate for each players, and I do think that like tonight, the decision-making was a huge stride forward for Joel against a really tough, stingy Heat defense. So I'm thrilled that the Sixers got this victory. This was a hard-fought victory. This is one that it took everything out of them. This is one that you can build off and feel the momentum of moving forward, and it's thankful for each guy playing within their role, doing their job, and guys going above and beyond like Nico Batum. So from here on out, the Sixers are back in action on Saturday. That will be the beginning of the Knicks series. And by the way, this is going to be a toss-up series. The Knicks are a real deal good basketball team. I've talked plenty about how I wanted the Milwaukee Bucks, how that was my circle team, that I'm probably picking Sixers in 5 if that's the way that things shook out. The Heat I do respect. They're a hard-fought, gritty team that aren't going to roll over. But you know what? The Sixers are more talented. That they don't have Joel Embiid on that roster. That Tyrese Maxey is going to play better than he did tonight overall, and I'm very excited about how this series is going to go. I'm going to have some Knicks vs. Sixers breakdown with Knicks Digest on this channel specifically. We're going to get into a ton about that game, but tonight I do want to just reflect one more time. One shout out to Nico Batum for rising up for the moment. This is the type of legacy performance that matters. And by the way, shout out to Daryl Morey, because all the guys that made an impact, all the guys that stepped up, are guys that were either off-season or mid-season acquisition. That means Kyle Lowry. That means Kelly Oubre. That means Buddy Hield, Nico Batum. These are the guys that people took for granted, that as everyone is star-chasing, looking for these big names, that Daryl Morey just brought in these solid players that are conducive and helpful to winning. And we saw that on full display tonight. This is one win down. This is many to go in this playoff run. This is not some just fluke play-in win against a crappy team. The Heat are good. The Heat are going to give a battle. They are going to defeat whoever wins. At the point I'm recording this, the Bulls and Hawks game is still going on. The Heat are going to beat that team, and they're going to give a battle to the Celtics team, assuming Jimmy Butler is not injured, which we will see what the outcome is there. I think he's honestly fine after playing through that. I'm sure he took a little bit of a blow, but I expect him to be fully available for the duration of that series. But once again, the bottom line, I just want to focus on what a gutsy, impressive victory the Sixers had tonight. The East runs through Philadelphia, and until someone knocks that pedestal, I'm ready to see where this thing goes. I do think this team is different this year. I do think the outlook, the personality, and just the overall talent level, all the parts fit better. I'm excited for this to be a playoff run. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. What are your takeaways from that victory? Are you as hyped up about it as I am? Because I do think this is something that can be built off and something that this Sixers team will carry in moving forward. Once again, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button, dropping a like to keep this Sixers Digest family growing, and I'll be talking with you soon. Peace.